Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning, my friends, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. I am Sandy Shellis, and it is a Sunday morning. I don't do this every Sunday morning, but I like to when I can because it's kind of cool. But it's not actually pajama party Sunday morning. We're going to go through the National Rifle Association, and today we're going to take that from showing you about it to talking about their methods and how activism in the climate community could have been patterned after it. But we're going to talk about this and we'll do some stuff. All right, so let me pull up and just say hi to you guys for being here. Hello, Penguin and Midas Lisa. Lisa, you're here. And Dog Dude and Bob Carmody. Hi, Bob. Welcome, welcome. Good show. But the truth, Karen Reese. Nothing's happening, Karen. I'm just doing a show on the NRA. All right, Bob. You're on your phone. All right, I see all of you. Keep joining, keep joining, keep joining. I'm going to get started. So basically, I am a member of, and I am drinking coffee, so I have to give you the brown tongue comment. Hi, Tommy, because I do. Seems like it happens a lot from coffee, which we're going to probably lose eventually. All right, so this is the magazine, okay? All right. And what I decided to do today was read you the piece that, what's his name? Wayne LaPierre wrote. That's not on the website. So I want to show you, I'm literally going to show you the website. But I think before I do that, and while you're joining, I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to read this piece because I think it's important to get the context of what this organization is and how these things can happen. And let's hope I have everything set well and I'm not screeching. So this is the monthly magazine without showing my address and doxing myself. And I have been a member for a while. And the reason why I'm a member, the first time I was a member was because of Bernie Sanders. And the things they were writing about Bernie Sanders and to their members. I remember they're supposed to be a nonprofit, right? Okay. So I'm not a humongous fan of our president, you know, or any of it, the neoliberal policies. But I'm way less of a fan of the right side of the aisle. And on the right side of the aisle exists the National Rifle Association. They have many politicians that they donate to and in their pocket. The National Rifle Association started out really as a target shooting gun club. Now they are a political force to be reckoned with, completely to be reckoned with. So this is a quickie, and then we're going to go to some visuals while people are joining. And this one, Biden weaponizes the House against NRA members and gun owners. Now, I figure by virtue of the fact that I am an NRA member, when the shit hits the fan and collapse happens, if they send out the list. I'm on it. So maybe they'll put an NRA colored X on my mailbox so people don't come and, raid my place. Science fiction. Join the NRA. Then you're, whoops, something just happened. I can hear. Hang on. So, what the frig? Did something just start playing? And I don't know why, because I didn't turn it on. And I started hearing it. All right. All righty, guys. So let me get started on this one. Remember, this is that Wayne LaPierre, wonderful guy. Wonderful guy. Hi, Global. All right. I understand that. Only the food you grow. So no human right is more essential to a free and just society than the fundamental right of law-abiding citizens to protect themselves and their loved ones in the face of a violent criminal attack. This may come as a surprise to the mainstream media and the Biden administration, but the NRA did not invent the right to self-defense or the individual right to keep and bear arms. These are fundamental rights. They are fundamental, natural. They're natural rights, which is about the only thing that's natural with the NRA. And our founders in the United States enumerated this in the Constitution. Why can't you hear me? What do you mean you can't hear me? Oh my God. I'm not muted. So who's telling me we can't hear you? Who's telling me? Please, guys, I'm trying to just get through one thing. It's Sunday morning. If I talk too loud, then the red light goes on. All right, I'm going back to this. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, peace. I'm not looking at the chat. I'm going to read now. I think all is good, right? All right. And then I'm not going to start over, although I kind of wanted to make a clip out of it. You guys? All right. I still could. So we only make it our business to fight for them, talking about the people that, just love firearms. Both of these freedoms date back centuries in an early law, English law. Our founding fathers enshrined them in our Declaration of Independence and the Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. They knew that liberty and the pursuit of happiness is not possible without life. And that life, unfortunately, is many times not possible without the legal right to use a firearm in self-defense. The U.S. Supreme Court has upheld and reaffirmed this fundamental legal precept numerous times, thanks in large part to the never-ending violent vigilance of the NRA members. So, however, we make it our business. They make it their business to defend our constitutional freedom to own firearms and protect ourselves, right? President Joe Biden, who swore an oath to uphold and defend those same freedoms, has made it the business of his White House to destroy them. Just 2 months ago, Biden announced that the establishment of the so-called Office of Gun Violence Protection. This new office, the first of its kind in the White House, is nothing more than a hornet's nest of anti-gun activists whose sole mission is to push Biden's gun ban agenda. The titular head of this new office is none other than Kamala Harris, who needs no introduction among NRA members. That is the vice president, but they won't call her that. The director is Stephanie Feldman, a longtime Biden aide and an anti-gun zealot who for years has made it her personal mission to rally the anti-gun left to defeat NRA and defeat gun manufacturers. Should read it, right? Look at that. It's all about guns, baby. Feldman's deputy director is Robert Wilcox, who prior to taking this position was a paid shill for Michael Bloomberg's Every Town for Gun Safety. As an anti-gun lobbyist, Wilcox pushed for banning semi-automatic rifles and banning private gun transfers, punishing law-abiding gun shops for the acts of criminals, and limiting the capacity of magazines used in self-defense firearms. So we could pick all of those apart. Make no mistake, what Biden has done here is nothing short of weaponizing the White House against NRA members and law-abiding gun owners. And while Feldman used to be on Biden's campaign payroll and Wilcox was bankrolled by Bloomberg, their salaries and the salaries of their staff will now be paid with your hard-earned tax dollars. And of course, that they don't pay, by the way. And of course, nothing that pours forth from this new office will have anything to do with preventing criminal violence or making anyone safer. After all, the same Biden who claims he wants to make America safer is the one who rolls out the red carpet for violent criminals, drug cartels, child traffickers, and terrorists to flood across their border. Oh, fear porn much? Nothing from this new office will have anything to do with making anyone safer. That same Biden who claims he wants to protect our communities is the same one who champions pro-criminal policies like no cash bail and revolving door justice schemes that have decimated our cities and towns and cost an untold number of innocent Americans their lives. And now, that same Biden, who has done nothing but unleash a historic, violent crime wave from coast to coast, is putting the power and energy of the White House behind an effort to restrict every law-abiding American's right to defend themselves and their loved ones. You and I know there are big issues that come to fare in every election: taxes, budgets, spending, foreign policy, and healthcare, to name a few. They're all important. They all have an impact on our lives, and they are all worth fighting for. But there is one issue that is clearly paramount this time, and it's our right to survive. Of course, they don't talk about the planet. Our right to survive. Okay, guys. Hang on a second. There's a website I have on here. I guess it's going to be pretty stupid here. You can't hear it. I can. And it keeps coming up because if you don't keep changing it on the website, it will play over and over after like a certain amount of time. So I can't even get through this. Less than 1 year from today, Americans will cast their votes. At stake is whether Joe Biden gets to continue destroying our nation with his pro-crime, anti-gun agenda, or if we get to restore sanity to our criminal justice system and save our constitutional right to keep and bear arms. There is no bigger issue, he says, in this coming election. And for that reason, we as NRA members must play our biggest role yet. And I should have played the, I should be standing here and pledging allegiance. So there you go. And I will say a couple of things about this. Last night, I was reading, maybe I'll just leave them on for the show. Got tired eyes. Last night, I was watching true crime. And true crime in the United States is probably a lot different and not unlike any other country, I think. And a lot of it last night, for some reason, was all men who shot and killed their wives in different episodes. And it was pretty disturbing. One was a cop. They would beat up their wives, but they all had guns. And they were all from red states. And they all had guns in their night drawer. Or they had shotguns. They had access. One dude went nuts and killed his own son. So there's a lot of violence in this country. We've seen mass shootings, and it's all we get is thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. It's kind of a big drag All right, we're going to go to screen share, and I'm going to pull up the things that I have to show you guys. I hope you're here with me and, having spurring conversation, which is really what I hope most of the time. Really I want to spur good conversation. So let's start with the NRA and their little fascist organization. Oh, so here we go. They have our rights are under attack like never before. Now, it's almost like an extreme paranoia. It really is. It's just it's freaky. Here, I'm gonna play with something. Oh, it doesn't work. All right, heck with that. I wanted to make myself smaller because I really don't think you guys need to look at me. You need to look at what I'm putting up there. And it is Sunday morning, so of course I couldn't sleep last night very well, and I'm tired, but I'm doing this. All right, here's the NRA. Different things. Our rights are under attack like never before. Paranoia, tireless defenders of your Second Amendment rights, like that's the only issue on the planet. It's really, oh my God. NRA publications, which this one is one of them. This one that I showed you, the shooting. And, I could give you an idea of some of their articles. How we are defending Bruin, which is New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, because they want to ruin my state with everybody on the planet having open carry and being able to walk around armed and murdering, which is why we have a true crime television industry to begin with. And trust me, it's big. People watch. Ministry of Disarmament. And here's another one. This is the big article about it. Joe Biden creates White House office to employ gun control advocates at your expense. These people they're nuts. They are actually literally nuts. And they are tax exempt. You see that they've got all kinds of, they have their political victory fund, and everything here is to support these red state politicians or, they're the right wing who are zealous about this, just zealous. And this is why, this is what we're going to go to. This was what I was trying to play before. All right, we're going to watch this and hang on. Here we go. Why are they tax exempt?
1,000 likes. And Verify viewer Kimberly sent us this question.
Hey, Verify, is the NRA tax exempt?
So, let's verify. Does the NRA have tax exempt status? Our sources are the Internal Revenue Service and the NRA. The NRA is the nation's largest gun owners organization and is classified as a 501c4 or social welfare organization. The IRS says this status is for nonprofit groups that mostly exist to lobby or advocate for a cause. This is not the same thing as a charity. A charity can accept tax-deductible donations, but is generally not allowed to lobby. A social welfare organization can't accept tax-deductible donations, but is allowed to lobby. Both are considered nonprofits by the IRS, which means they're exempt from federal taxes. So, yes, the NRA does have tax-exempt status. 501c4s are common and include nonprofits like AARP, the Miss America organization, and some volunteer fire departments. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
So, they are a social welfare organization. And I just kind of question how much social welfare they're involved in, actually. I mean, really think about it. Really, social welfare. There was a comment somebody had made. I saw that. I'm trying to keep up with your comments, too, because this is interesting. Wow. Okay, we're going to get to this afterwards. I'm going to try to flag some of your commentary. And if anybody does any super chats, that's cool too. That's all cool. So, after a gunman killed 19 children and 2 teachers at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, the NRA faced increased criticism. Call to Activism, a group with more than 1 million followers on Facebook and Twitter, had launched an online petition calling for the IRS to revoke their tax-exempt status. They should have it revoked. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this is their website. So, you can look at their advocacy for a business. It's all about the money, honey. So these are 6 fun 22 semi-automatic handguns. Now remember, they're advertising for these companies. They don't pay taxes. They're politically active and they get people elected based on fear. They love these and they talk about all of these guns, which, believe it or not, I have heard of all of them, or a lot of them, from these true crime series that I had started watching and got me interested in doing this show. Now, in the United States, there are firearm manufacturers, and there's a lot of them. Look at them. These are all firearms manufacturers. It is big business in the United States. Absolutely. Look at the names: Weatherby, Magnum Research, Dan Wesson Firearms. I'm going to look at Ithaca because it's old, and I own an Ithaca. I own an old-time vintage, I guess it's 1970s. My ex-husband bought me. It's here, all right? So I'm not saying we want to get rid of everybody's guns. I mean, that's crazy. But the way our country is insane. Ithaca became famous for building firearms based on expired patents owned by Remington. So it's a small company, but they make these different kinds of shotguns. And they're in New York. We have very, very strict gun laws in New York, but they are here. And, all right. Let's pick another one. I didn't even look through these. I just thought it would be kind of fun to look at these different kind of firearms company. This one they make semi-automatic lever action and bolt action rifles. And they're in Madison, North Carolina. And they were also founded like in the 1870s. They've gone through different acquisitions and they make the Marlins. I've heard of the Marlins. See, they're for hunting. For the most part, it looks like this company is making, and it's hunting season here where I live. So everybody around here hunts, and everybody is in their vests and their clothes and their whole 9 yards. All right, let's see here. Bond Arms. Let's see who this is. This is an American firearms manufacturer located in Texas. They make Derringers and the semi-automatic Bullpup 9 pistol. I'm sure that's been something that my arch nemesis here that fills in for me, Kimberly Tammy Lauren Gargoyle, I bet she has one of these. They were made, see, again, 1860s. Everything changed, though. And isn't it funny how I'm picking all these companies that have been around forever? It's big business in the United States making guns. Look at these. So here's a Bond Arms Texas Defender, little engraving and tusk grips. I mean, this is America, baby. Got to have it in your purse. I mean, I understand self-defense. But I wouldn't want to live in a state personally where everybody's walking around with a fucking gun. And especially there's so much alcohol in bars. I mean, it's all I'd say it's indicative of this is a collapsing society for sure. Look at, this is all the stuff that they make. And they make it so sexy, high polished satin. Oh, the Century 2000. High polished satin. Let's get one of those sexy ass guns. How about one more? we're going to look at, well, let's look at American Derringer because I bet they're an old one. Oh, no, they were founded in Waco. Whack job, Texas. Founded in 1980, American Derringer specializes making high-quality stainless steel derringers and small pistols. And this is the Model 1 Derringer, which is based on the iconic Remington 95 designer. So anybody in the United States, well, especially if you live in a very lax state, with lax gun laws, you can buy from any of these companies. And I'm trying to find, which I didn't do, all right, Magnum Research. I wonder if who sells to the United States military, because again, this is big business, and these aren't just personal arms manufacturers. They have other wings, and they manufacture weapons. Here's one in Minnesota, and they call themselves Research. And another company owns them. I mean, it's just deep layers. Talk about the deep state. You want to talk about the deep state? Here it is. This is the deep state. This is the Firearms deep state. Here's another one, Nighthawk Custom. They're in Arkansas. They make pistols, rifles, revolvers, shotguns, tactical knives for competition shooters, military, law enforcement, and self-defense. So there they are. There's the industry. And then these fuckers get to tell you who to vote for, manipulate you, not you necessarily, but, manipulate the people that are so inclined to want to be part of this club and let themselves not see that mass shootings of children in the United States and guns in every night table and mentally ill people that get hold of guns and people that are just anger management issues that get hold of guns and shoot their spouses and kill their children. And I just saw that last night. So they also have a podcast. As if the national press were not, this is what they're telling their members, were not liberal enough or sufficiently committed to the national left-wing agenda, big philanthropy is throwing hundreds of millions of dollars to make local journalism also align with the left-wing agenda. Where is that? Do you guys see that in United States journalism? I sure as fuck don't. The press forward initiative.
More than 21,000 people have signed a petition calling on the Internal Revenue Service to revoke.
Stupid thing went on again. I got to keep turning it off. All right. The press forward initiative announced by the left-wing MacArthur Foundation may claim to be independent of ideology, but the funders list suggests that the goal is to make local news look more like the New York Times, if not the New Republic. Joining me to discuss these, and then there's a whole thing on here, and I did listen to this one, and these people, it's just so sad because, well, I don't know if there's a political agenda behind the MacArthur Foundation, but these people sure as hell are paranoid enough about that. And do you guys honestly see where there is a left-wing agenda on any of this? I don't. The news? I don't think, not my kind of left anyway. Not my kind of left. So that's a podcast that they brainwash people more and more and more with. Yeah, exactly, Tommy. System of domination. Yep. Yeah. And government needs their status quo, to protect their status quo. Yes, I know. And make everybody crazy around here where I live. Hunting season. So what I'm going to segue to now is climate activism, moving over, because we know what the NRA, they have tight organization. They are linked up. They are the deep state. They are the right-wing deep state. They are the deep state of the people that we talked about the other night. I talked about Project 2025 with Jim, and they are scary. Now, I haven't looked enough into this new office that the Biden administration announced, but I imagine it's not going to be very effective. And I don't mean to sound like a negative. I mean, there's a lot of activists like David Hogg out there that are amazing, but this country is, I think it's, well, it could be too far gone for change before the big, gigantic crescendo comes up. Yeah. I'd like to flush the NRA's tax-exempt fund, tax exemption right down the toilet. So back in 2010, Grist wrote an article, What Climate Activists Need to Learn from the NRA and the Gun Control Wars. Now that's 2010. What was the PPM in 2010? Because now it's 423? I didn't pull that up. Hey, thank you. Let's see. Wait. Thank you, Dan. The MacArthur Foundation is considered nonpartisan and does not align itself explicitly with either left wing or right wing. Right. Well, they want to just give us the fear porn. Thank you for pulling that up. And Hoople's Cat. This is great. In May 22, the MacArthur Foundation partnered with the Urban Institute, announced the launch of a housing stability program designed to break the links between housing instability and jail. Well, gee, don't they sound reasonable? Yeah. Okay, well, thank you guys for sharing. Absolutely. So what should, according to Grist, back in 2010, what should climate activists, what did they need to learn? Now, I had a conversation with Kelly last night, Kelly Lincoln, who does the show in Humboldt, California, which actually I'll be putting it up because I'm going to be her co-host again on Tuesday night. And they are having it's local nonprofit radio, and they're having a support, a fundraiser. So I'm going to be her co-host, Kelly. And we were talking last night about this. And, the first thing she said was, well, before you even can do anything, it's all about money, who they're getting their money from. And they're getting their money from not so savory sources. But I'm going to give you this anyway. I want to do this anyway and show you what was being said in 2010 and what happened. And then you guys decide what happened in 2010 to now. What did we hit? 2.0 for a short time. We're over 1.5 in our temperature, in our global temperature, and it's not just anomalies. Our ppm of carbon is insane. We are headed off a cliff, but the NRA thinks that guns in the United States are the most important issue of today. That's called delusional. Supporters of climate change legislation have much to learn from this organization. The gun lobby is not invincible, but it has won a disproportionate share of its battles. The NRA and its allies have not relied on data collection. Oh, brother, why do these things come up? They're not supposed to. The NRA and its allies have not relied on data collection and scrupulously reasoned arguments to carry the day. To the contrary, the gun lobby has focused on building and energizing its small membership base, working to influence outcome of critical elections, and employing bare-knuckled tactics. The NRA's membership is not that large. Well, it's now. Since Trump came into office, they got bigger. This is 2010, so what was Obama was president, right? The NRA's, it's not that large in its views, even if in today's more pro-gun environment, are largely outside of mainstream American thought. Indeed, many of its own members likely disagree with the organization's policies. I don't think so anymore. Ask any veteran of a gun control battle, and they will tell you it's not politics as taught in the classroom. It's the political equivalent of hand-to-hand combat. As climate activists regroup for another assault on the carbon camp, here are some key points to keep in mind.
More than 21,000 people have signed a petition calling on the Internal Revenue.
There you go. All right. So politics is politics. It's not a debate competition. Elected officials must be persuaded by all means, legal and ethical, to vote for your position. Some members of Congress may be won over by the urgency of your cause, but most will only be persuaded by the urgency with which their constituents speak out. Sadly, loud voices at town halls count for more than all of the scientists in the world. So the Second Amendment people, especially in rural America, they do go. I used to go to the Congressman Reed's town halls, but I videotaped or I live streamed them and asked them questions about the pipelines. Anyway, fight behind enemy lines. Support on controversial issues tends to divide along party lines. But don't let that stop you from recruiting and supporting a candidate on your issue who happens to be a member of the other party. In fact, getting involved in primary fights on the other side of the political aisle may be the single most effective thing you can do. Little naive here. Win new allies. Wars are seldom won without strong allies. Same goes with politics. If your allied base is not strong enough, convert some of your erstwhile opponents into allies. The gun lobby suffered two of its worst defeats in the 1990s when gun control groups successfully recruited the support of major national law enforcement groups. Yeah, what has changed with major national law enforcement groups since 2010? I can tell you, Donald Trump. And I'm not having Trump derangement syndrome. Supporters of climate change legislation need to work harder at making allies out of business interests that previously may have been skeptical of climate change, like the insurance industry. Redraw those battle lines. At the present time, the issue of climate change is largely seen as an intergenerational issue affecting future generations. Like now, which is 13 years later. But the effects of climate change become more pronounced as they have this year, back in 2010, the issue may and should become more pressing to those focused on the here and the now. But I read to you that NRA members and Wayne LaPierre and the gaslighting, brainwashing people that fund them, big moneyed interest of arms dealers, fossil fuel interests, because there's a lot of that going on. Well, what rallying cry has really been answered in the climate movement? Oh, I mean, okay, Joe Biden put in, his for green energy, but they're talking about that all wrong too. But that's a different show. When the rules don't suit it, change the rules of engagement. And the gun lobby is not shy about changing them because it has a bigger political war chest than its gun control opponents. It has taken every opportunity to loosen campaign finance restrictions, and that's probably gotten worse. Supporters of the legislation need to reevaluate laws and procedures, including the supermajority requirement in the Senate that have made it more difficult to pass legislation and override entrenched business interests. There's a reason why the House has passed climate change legislation and the Senate has not. The House is more small d Democratic than the Senate. Back in 2010 again. Unless the rules are changed, it may be difficult, if not impossible, to get climate change legislation approved in the Senate. Don't fear to be feared. Progressive groups, strap on the ball sacks, guys. Including many supporters of climate change legislation love to be loved. The gun lobby doesn't care if you don't like it, so long as you fear it. The NRA, the most powerful lobby in Washington, is one of the most reviled. Many members of Congress, even pro-gun members, privately bristle at the tactics of the NRA, but that doesn't stop them from voting in lockstep with the NRA. So that's 2010. And 2010. And my comment about, putting on your whatever, I'm using a little NRA speak. A little NRA speak. I need a little stretch speak. And we're going to move on to the next one, but I need to. And if I make a video out of this, I'll edit that out. All right, here we go. I want to show you the last article. This was an op-ed, and then I'm going to look at comments, and we're going to chit-chat a little bit because I'm keeping this to an hour. Op-ed, we need an NRA for nature. And this is actually from 2022. Is it time for environmental activists to take a different, more potent approach to mobilizing? So the first article that referenced the NRA, and I'm just looking at everything. Okay, I got it all set. And now this was written 12 years later. So the other day, well, I'm going to just go through a little bit down and say what they really want. All right. Here in Deep Red, Montana, over 10,000 people marched in the Women's March in Helena, smashing all records and expectations. Meanwhile, the state's Central Democratic Committee virtually ignored it. So they're talking about how politics basically sucks. All right. However, you feel about the NRA. You have to admit that the organization like the Tea Party knows how to get its way. I can't recall the last time I read about an environmental or conservation group mounting a successful campaign to boot members of Congress from office. A handful of Greens aspire to that political power, and many have done a good job influencing regulatory policies. But I can't recall the last time I read about an environmental or conservation group mounting a successful campaign to boot multiple members of Congress from office. Maybe it's happened. God, they're just getting around to getting rid of George Santos, for God's sake. Maybe it's happened, but not often enough. And now the ante is upped. If political candidates aren't afraid of environmentalism's political power, what good is it? So have we reached a point where environmentalism is less about political power than more about moral preening or lifestyle choices? The last few weeks have rocked the environmental movement, writes Nathaniel Stinnett, founder of the Environmental Voter Project. In the wake of the November elections, environmentalists are deeply concerned about the future of the Paris Climate Accord, there is no future. Not really. This is Outside Magazine, by the way, and they are from Montana. The rollback of federal environmental protections and even the fate of the EPA itself. Stinnett points to an inconvenient truth. As a group, environmentalists are miserable voters. Approximately 20.1 million self-identified environmentalists are registered to vote, he says, but only 4.2 million of them voted in the 2014 midterms. In the 2012 elections, 10 million voted. Meanwhile, in 2014, NRA-backed candidates won more than 91% of congressional races in which they endorsed a candidate. Now, these are older statistics. Even though 90% of Americans supported background checks for gun owners, even following the killing of 26 people at Sandy Hook. And we all know what happened after Sandy Hook. And we all know what happened in the Alex Jones crazy world. And the lawsuit, which he'll probably never have to pay. Why is it that the NRA can have its way with Congress, but environmentalists and conservationists are so often on the defensive? One explanation is that for many Americans, the environment, especially when it comes to climate change, is an abstraction. This is true in part because so many indoor kids or their parents never have the chance to fall in love with nature. It's also true because the most common language of environmentalism is oddly both opaque and apocalyptic. By contrast, the NRA's focus is as hard and tangible as gunmetal. Guns and gun ownership are more deeply embedded in the national character than environmentalism, which is newer on the scene. As you saw, all of those gun companies established in 1870, 1880, still around in one shape or another. Gun owners are more focused on individual self-defense than on a generalized threat of gun violence. Except in the collapse community where we know that the zombies are coming. And gun ownership is protected as a constitutional right. So, consequently, to many Americans, gun ownership is not only tangible, but a deeply personal and emotional issue, and that is the way the NRA frames it. They gut-wrench their members. The NRA doesn't have to have a lock on emotion. The organization is just better at making use of it. Most Americans of all political persuasions were deeply upset by Sandy Hook and other massacres, yet after Sandy Hook, legislation requiring background checks once again failed to pass the Senate. Marketing campaign spending, overwhelming lobby power, a powerful industry, and political fear ruined the day. So they tap into is different from the episodic mass tragedies of gun violence. These tragedies are like thunderstorms, violent for a spell and then a memory after your thoughts and prayers. But the NRA's reign is slow, relentless, never ceasing. It's time to learn from the NRA, even if the lessons are uncomfortable. So how to do it? Well, let's start by expanding on a familiar concept. Most thinking people understand the NRA's power. Consequently, they would get the idea, an NRA for nature. That frame is clear, concise, and potent. An NRA for nature, and you could put another name or acronym there, could take form as a new membership organization, massive expansion of an existing organization, a tight network of multiple groups, or a shared campaign lodged by all of the above. Since 2014, Green political action committees and super PACs, which supposedly aren't as beholden to limits on fundraising or spending, are on the upswing. All right, these are from, I don't know, they got their, it's a 2022 article, but some of their stuff is a little dated. The Next Gen Climate Action, millions on races. Sierra Club, okay, they definitely do. If League of Conservation Voters, PAC, Environment America Action Fund, Defenders of Wildlife Action Committee, and Crowd PAC. Now, the one thing I do caution when you look at all these nonprofits is just look at their administrative costs and give to the ones with the lowest, because that's more money getting out. The only thing is when you do donate to like the national, what is it, the NRDC, you have to understand attorneys, and attorneys are expensive, and to fight lawsuits, it is expensive. So there are some organizations with higher administrative costs because they're employing all the attorneys that these organizations use to fight these things, just like the NRA. So money is an issue. Nonprofits tend to compete for support from the same funders and therefore tend to see each other as competitors. Trump's election will undoubtedly grow the number of individual donations, but government money for environmental causes will likely shrink. So if 2025 is implemented, there won't be any money for any kind of political action donations for environmental groups because, well, they'll also lose their 501c3, and I bet you anything the IRS will be made to rewrite the laws so that only certain organizations such as the NRA could stay tax exempt so they could get their donation slush money from all the different sources of dark, deep state, ugly money that they get. One can imagine a coordinated, to NRA members, this whole thing with social welfare. This is important. Also, 501c3 nonprofits are limited in what they can do politically. Yeah, okay. But government money for environmental causes. Oh, I'm sorry. Public education is allowed. Lobbying for specific bills and campaigning for candidates is restricted. And I know about this because I was the treasurer for Concerned Citizens of Allegheny County. And so I had to do the status, and we all made sure of what was acceptable and what wasn't. We were a tiny group. I mean, we had a tiny budget, and I filed the 990s, and but we were nervous during the fight, the pipeline fights, other environmental issues that we were dealing with, that we didn't get political. A tiny little organization, we were always worried that we were going to lose our nonprofit status. And then you see these people. I mean, it's ludicrous, right? It kind of is. All right. The NRA is a 501c4, so they're allowed to lobby. The trade-off: donations are not deductible. That doesn't discourage loyal members from sending. Now, it's not about the deduction, but we saw on that other website that they do pay federal taxes. I mean, they don't pay federal taxes. I'm sorry. They don't pay federal taxes. One can at least imagine a coordinated campaign. Oh, and one more thing. I'm sorry to do this, but I have this experience. A 501c3, you can do two of them. So if you want to have your 501c4 and you want to talk about politics, you can do that. 501c3 is the one that you are restricted. It's a lot of managing, but I believe the rules are bent all the time for certain groups. Add to that a permanent, relentless voter mobilization drive. If it reaches scale, the three-pronged campaign, while not identical in form, could be a green equivalent of the NRA. Along with more political action, we need a broader constituency to support good candidates, one with greater diversity of religion, race, ethnicity, economics. Guns and Second Amendment are powerful symbols to rally around, but so are urban gardens, natural schoolyards, parks, clean air and water, wilderness, and the human right of every child that has to psychological, physical, and spiritual gifts of nature. And of course, the tenuousness of our tenure on the planet, a more abstract issue, but real as rain. Our greatest barrier is despair. For many years, Americans have been trapped in a dystopian trance, a passive assumption of a post-apocalyptic future. We need a balancing set of images depicting a future that is not only energy efficient, but also rich with cities and countryside that serves as engines of biodiversity and health. Now, if I could play Aerosmith's Dream On, I might. Making that tangible to voters won't happen overnight, but it's possible, especially if we don't write off Republicans or rural America, as some progressives have suggested. And I'm against that also, and I'm a progressive in a very rural area. Or big chunks of the population who don't care about nature but prefer snowplows to skis and bird hunting to bird watching. Although I have guns and use them, I do not belong to the NRA, says Anne, but I do respect their marketing and passion. I believe the usual models of the progressive movement are no longer working. Facts are only mildly interesting to someone who is emotionally on fire. This was Richard Louv. He's the author of the Nature Principle, Last Child in the Woods, and other books about the human-nature connection. And you know what? It's really important. He brought up some very good issues, if you ask me. And while he didn't concentrate on climate change per se, he did talk about the need to organize and be heard and be seen. Now, we know and we see Just Oil, we see all of the radical organizations. I don't know if they are following an NRA. I don't think they are, not quite, because they're not getting the political moneymakers on their side. But I just thought it was interesting, especially the 501c3 and how you can get around all of it. All of it. So let's look at you guys. First, I'm going to thank you, two of you, for super chats, because That's really sweet. And actually, it's really helping the channel and me to be less stressed. Super chat. It's all about the money, honey. Yep. It's all about the money. Okay. How's it going? Lisa, thank you. She did a super sticker, which for some reason you can't see. Thank you, guys. All right. I had one. Now, let's just go through this. I did not, because I'm solo here. Lisa's, everything is happening all at once, Karen, all at once. Time is instant everywhere. Oh, I love you too. That was the beginning. Let me go down here where you guys are. Honestly, the billionaires are probably capped on their charitable contributions anyway, at least the doctor deductible ones, so they don't give a fuck. Probably not. Hello. And let's see. All right, I'm not going to. It's hard. It's going by so fast. Okay, channel Tommyist. Yeah, they all care about a self-aggrandizement and the accumulation of money. Well, that's what it's about, isn't it? Hello, my dogs are goth. I also agree with you. If the U.S. goes full fascist, the rest of the world will follow. You guys are having that conversation. It's, yeah, as Jim and I did. You know, Jim and I got into places we don't usually get. And I thought it was a pretty fascinating conversation. I'm sure that there are people that follow us that really don't like what some of the things we said, he said, so what? The plants trees know about all the plant trees around it and the conditions of via the microbiome of the soil. Hi, Jay Saddletramp. Microbiome of the soil. Yeah. Ignorance, fear, hate, anger, bigotry, ignorance is the key. Keep them scared. Keep them in fear. And like last night on one of the true crime shows, this dude is driving along on a back road and he's got and she married him after this, soon to be wife. They drive into a secluded area where people evidently dump animals out, and they're sitting in the car. She doesn't know what he's doing. He pulls out a pistol. The dog comes up, puts its paws right on the side of the car, and he takes out his gun and shoots it in the head. And she married this fucker, and he ended up killing her. So there, you know, that's, if you don't know, a psychopath. And how many of those kind of psychopaths are in state offices and being elected more and more and more in the United States? Well, kind of all over the world, right? Yeah. All right. Yeah, it is. That's murder porn. All right. I've never known that because it's only new to me. And it kind of just made me start looking when I wanted to do this. And I've been wanting to do this for quite a while. All right. Well, I'm really happy you guys came. All right. This is good. We have to make sure Trump doesn't win in state primaries. Well, you got to get young people to vote. That's what we have to do. Is young people have to get out there and vote. Or even, look, I don't care if you think that we are WASF, that we are collapsing, whatever. I still think we are here. I'm pitching myself. I'm still here. And there's a lot of people still here. So why not go down fighting? And they just outlined, you know, how the NRA does it. So I think the most important things, besides education in climate and all, is getting people to vote. And not even telling them who to vote for, any of that. Yep, exactly, Warren. It's always been about fear and insecurity. For the masses, it's a sad state of the development for all of us. Fail. Yep. All right, listen. All of you has been wonderful. But it's an hour. Psychopathy is prerequisite for office these days. Yeah, right? I see what you mean. Okay, whichever thug can beat Trump. Okay, I got ya. Okay, I had been talking about changing to the Republican Party for the primaries in New York State and voting for, let's say, Chris Christie, and just to screw up the primaries. All right. The primaries in New York, and then you can then do whatever you want, but you have to be a Republican to vote in their primary. Do that. Try, make a mass movement, because the Democrats, to their real stupidity, are not having any primaries. And that's a different show. But because they're not, vote for somebody other than Trump. So I understand what this person is saying. Do it. Have I done it? All right, what's a must read? The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene is a must read. Thank you very much. All right. All right, guys, listen. Thank you very much. Oh, hi, Colinello. The Trump worse argument doesn't work with me, and the genocide line is crossed. Well, I get it. It's a horrible line. But yeah, I'm not going to tell you anything. That's why I like to say this. You've got your worldviews. I like to educate. I'm not going to tell you, Wow. Let's see. Honestly, Sandy Christie could probably beat Biden, and I don't know that he wouldn't implement Project 2025, If you get enough arm twisting, I would imagine that they would. Even a Chris Christie. Yeah. It's a pretty scary world, but we're all in it to fight, right? Maybe those people on the left could take on some of those. Oh, really? You don't know what Project 2025 is? Somebody doesn't know what Project 2025 is? Watch my show from Friday night, or Alicia Miller has a really good show on what it is. And it's all over the place. It's the fascist playbook, quite frankly. It's a project by the Heritage Foundation to be implemented day one of the next Republican administration, January 2025, in which our country will fold over and go fully fascist. And it will. And it's halfway there. It's halfway there. So let's get a little goodbye music. It's good to see you guys. Have a wonderful Sunday. I will be here Tuesday night, but probably early. And we want peace. We want peace. Look at that. I didn't turn it off. All right, guys. Love you.